Hey everyone, welcome to episode 16. And without Rodney's help today, I'm able to get the numbers correctly because I always mess up the numbers. But if you are joining and you're looking at a couple of maybe unfamiliar faces, let me introduce you to my amazing guests. Today we have James, CTO at Rewind, and maybe Rodney's joining us, but it looks like he just stepped in. But we got Bob here helping us out just in case Rodney's internet doesn't work out. But if you've been a fan of the show and you've been watching us since day one, you all know Rodney's dilemma with his love-hate relationship with this cable company. And so Rodney may or may not be.
Are we sure it's the cable company? I don't know where he gets his internet
Last
from.
time it was his server. So anyways, thank you, James, very much for coming on and taking time here to speak with what we call the Jira Amigos. We have a pretty good fan base of people that reliably jump in here and talk to us and come hear us talk about all things Atlassian. So thank you very much. Oh, and Ronnie made it. We're going to put him on mute.
Very much so. It's going to be very loud here.
Yeah. We'll
Rodney's coming in from the factory.
Game shop.
On mute and then, and then we'll let James go start it off here. All right, James, over to you.
Rodney looks like he's in a really fun place. Listen, Alex, Bob, Rodney, really happy to be here. Really happy to be an honorary Jira Amigo for the day. As Alex said, I'm James. I'm the CTO at Rewind. We do backups. We do backups for SaaS applications. And in the last little while, we launched backups specifically into the Atlassian ecosystem. So I'm here today because I think we're talking about disaster recovery, specifically in the Jira space. So really thrilled that you gave me some time in the platform.
Thank you again for it. We're looking forward to it. Like we mentioned right before the start here, backups and cybersecurity and all that great stuff is something that I think a lot of people need to really be worrying about 24/7. I think some people tend to not worry about it as much, especially when we go over to like the cloud. But it definitely should be top of mind of everybody 24/7.
It's good flossing, isn't it? You know, you kind of don't do it until you realize that you really it, and then
yes,
just definitely. One of those things that you just you do. It's
it's part of good SaaS hygiene.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it that way, but yeah, it makes total sense. Good SaaS hygiene. So we'll start off here. Let's start talking about why do customers seek out Rewind?
There's lots of really good reasons that customers actually come to us. The first is really like they've experienced a problem in some way, shape, or form in the past. It's actually kind of how the business got started. My co-founder, Mike, and our CEO, he experienced the problem firsthand. He was presenting at a Adobe conference and literally his computer crashed. And kind of from that point on, he was preaching from the gospel of backups. And when he came to me and he was like, hey, we should do this, it really came from a place of like, I know the pain and nobody should have to experience this problem going forward. So a lot of our customers today, they're customers that have like, they've experienced it firsthand in their own lives, either personally or professionally.
And maturity you usually experience it at the worst moment too.
Oftentimes, yeah, exactly. And I mean, imagine standing in front of an audience of like hundreds of people and kind of being left with literally no notes and no real way to go. It's one of those really disgusting feelings for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, in a lot of times people like they come to us after the fact and they're like, hey, I've experienced this problem. Is there any way you can help me? And kind of the sad reality is if they're not already a customer, if they're not already looking at their own kind of backup strategy, then it's really sort of difficult to be of aid in that case. But those are the types of customers that tend to become customers for life.
Yeah, sometimes it's not like a big thing, like a server completely going down. A common thing that we as Jira admins face are that user who somehow got the ability to delete issues, deleted an issue and realized that they really need it. And there's no way of, jumping into the time machine. So
Right. Yeah. Yesterday, I had a team call me up, and they're like, "Hey, somebody applied a new workflow, updated the workflow, and they went from a very complex workflow to a very simple workflow. And all of a sudden, this new simple workflow left off all the metadata, right? So that complex workflow had a lot of metadata that was important to the team, but after the translation, it was gone. It was all gone. And they're like, "Can we undo it?" I'm like, "Not in Jira, not without rewind."
Yeah, totally. Like the biggest like contributor to these types of disasters, like it tends to be the human factor. And it, like you both just gave two examples where, you know, the human kind of was the main problem, right? So like it really does kind of stand out that having something in place to help mitigate those issues when they do come about seems like a really good idea. I don't know.
And
Have you
even
two seen anything else like in your experience that tends to be a contributing factor to these types of scenarios?
oh, we remember well, at least some of us do. You know, the first day of the Atlasian Team 2022 conference, when and you know, in Las Vegas, I'm sitting there, and in between keynotes, and I'm looking at the community page, and there are people like, "Hey, I can't get to my JSM. Hey, I can't get to," you know, and that was when Atlassian had mistakenly deleted
painstakingly.
Yeah.
JSM
Yeah.
sites and affecting, was it like hundreds of customers? Let's
But
say.
it wasn't just the
Yeah.
JSMs though. Everything went down. The whole Jira.
It was a lot
Yeah, it
of
was
things.
the entire site for
Yeah, the whole URL.
hundreds of JS supported instances.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It was really, really bad. And yeah, we were out for a week.
Oh, see, so that's what we would call like sudden problem awareness. That like that's another reason that people seek us out, because you know something has either happened in the media, a breach of some kind, or in this case, a problem with an actual vendor, and they start to think about like, what am I supposed to do when this type of thing happens? Because you know that SaaS hygiene, if you will, like it's not really there, and so now they're trying to actually think about that problem going forward.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but right, and I kind of alluded to it at the beginning, right? I feel like a lot of companies, when they move over to a SaaS solution, they kind of almost forget that they still need to worry about their data. Like they still need to worry about being able to get to it. And I think too many people just take it for granted. They're like, "Oh, somebody else's problem now."
Exactly.
Until it becomes your problem again.
Right. Or it's not even that, like they just don't even realize it. Because like, you know, when we were all young people, you know, the data used to live on your hard drive or somewhere on-prem, and you had to think about, well, what happened if that hard drive crashed or that server crashed, and you probably had some kind of disaster recovery or backup strategy in place to take care of it.
Yeah.
But it's like all this stuff is moving into the cloud. You're just sort of assuming that, well, it's the cloud. Like it's got this aura of safety that goes along with it.
Yeah, and
And
from my perspective, I've had these situations where I come from that world of the data center, right? Where you do need to sit down, do your tabletop reads, right? Have your plans. You have to every once in a while actually, you know, do your like hot swaps and cold swaps and whatnot, and kind of try things out.
Yeah.
But then in the cloud, I've also seen that we still have a very similar, at least one of my, like some of my bigger teams that I work with, we still have a similar rigor, but the answer is like, well, I just pull out Atlassian SOC 2 compliance and go, well, go read that. Like, because I can't do anything, right? I don't have access to databases. I don't have access to anything, right? And so it's like, here's their file and here's their policy and their warranty.
Yeah. And that's that false sense of security almost, because you just assume that the fine print in the SOC report or the whatever, the terms and conditions of the provider kind of have you covered, and the reality is you don't. If you actually read the terms that you're acknowledging when you subscribe to a lot of these things, they often tell you like, our platform, it's secure, it's reliable, and they are. I don't mean to imply that they're not.
Right, of course not.
But right, but the reality is that the fine print also says like you're on the hook for your data and ensuring the reliability and resiliency of your data. And I mean, who really takes the time to read the terms of service to that point and really understand the implications of that? Most people don't.
Right. And you'll feel it the one day that you need it.
100%.
So in the chat here, we have raise your hand if you've accidentally whacked a few database tables or schemas back in the day. Ed from our Jira Amigos is slowly raising their hands. I had I wouldn't say we whacked a few databases, but a funny story that I like to tell people is a few years ago, one of my teams that I worked at, we were on premise for our Jira and Confluence, and that server, no hack, no cybersecurity incident, none of that, but our hard drive filled up, and it started overwriting all the bits, and then until the point where it corrupted itself, and then we lost all the drives. And so as we were trying to recover, we realized all the documentation for like the IP addresses and serial numbers and all that was on the hard drive. That stuff's gone away too. So we didn't have any paper copies of anything. And so that was my embarrassing story one day.
We all have one of those.
That I almost set a server room on fire one time.
Only once?
Only once.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
All right. So let's transition a little bit more technical, James. Why don't we get into how do we build a disaster recovery strategy for Jira? We've been kind of talking about this. We get this false sense of security with Jira. And I think a lot of, at least I work with hundreds and hundreds of different teams, right? So most people just don't even care about recovery solutions or anything when it comes to Jira. But the complaint I get all the time is I accidentally deleted something. I accidentally changed the workflow. I accidentally did this or I accidentally did that. And whether they're novices or expert Jira admins, these mistakes always happen. So kind of walk us through like how do we build this? How do we get better at this?
Yeah. The reality is it's not much different than any other disaster recovery strategy that you'd be building. Like you even alluded to the old days where you were doing it for on-prem type things. It really all starts with like risk assessments. I think you're sitting down and you're trying to understand what is the cost of downtime when I can't access this project, if this series of issues disappeared, if this workflow gets corrupted. You really kind of got to get a sense of what that looks like, because that'll help drive a lot of the priorities, I think. You want to know who has access to what. We talked about humans kind of being a big cause of a lot of these disasters. So if you can kind of get a sense of what your permission model looks like, who's authorized to do what changes, that'll also sort of give you a sense, I think, of how to frame your recovery strategy. And then the other thing you want to probably look at is like the integrations that you have into your environment. Because as much as like humans tend to be the leading cause of a lot of these disasters, the reality is software has bugs. Shocking, right? But it's quite possible too that like a rogue integration could do something that you're not expecting it to do. And if you don't have a good handle on like what's installed within your Jira instance, and I mean, hands up if you actually can catalog all of them right now, that's another area that I think you want to be able to understand the risks associated with it.
So you bring up an interesting point about looking at those integrations. And the thing with Jira is that it is so woven into a lot of things. So, and especially when we're looking at SaaS, where Jira may be talking to Confluence Cloud, which may be, and also by interweaving into DevOps, we might be throwing Bitbucket Cloud or GitHub or GitLab the mix.
Yeah.
How do you see that as part of the disaster recovery?
It's a big part, I think. Like when we think about how like restores work from a rewind point of view, we're actually trying to think about like how do we ensure that those types of integrations work? Because to get into the nitty-gritty details at the API level, like there are some restrictions that are put upon us, but it's kind of critical that if you deleted a series of Jira issues that are referenced in a Confluence page, that you can somehow like marry that information back together when you're executing the recovery strategy. So from our point of view, like that's a problem that we're really looking to try and solve. And we kind of feel uniquely positioned to do so as we're like bringing the solution across the myriad of Atlassian tools. But it is sort of important because the end user's expectation of what the data set looks like in the recovery is really important in the recovery process itself.
Yeah, so in my review videos that I did, right, so for full disclosure for everybody else, right, so Rewind is a sponsor of Ape Tech Tutorial, which is my main channel. That was one of the things that I caught, and I actually I didn't so I caught that the recovery doesn't use the same key. We get a different key, but one of the comments that I got from a viewer was, and I just haven't had a chance to test it out, so let me see hopefully I don't put you too much in the spot, James, right? But the children of, like, I restored an epic, right, that linking again didn't look like it came through. So like these are all little Jira isms, right? So I was just curious, like, how does your team like learn Jira, right? How do you all like worry about how Jira works fundamentally to make your product better?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time talking to customers. So one of the strategies is we like bring on new integrations to the platform is we try and really work with a lot of the early adopters. Like we're Jira users ourselves, so that we do dog food our own products as much as we possibly can. But as you all know, right, like there is probably billions of permutations of the way that data can be like represented within Jira specifically. And it's really hard to try and capture every possible permutation when you're implementing that resource scenario. So that exact use case that you're describing, I saw that mentioned today in our development conversations. And somebody was looking into it and they had highlighted, like, I think in your specific use case, you had done an item level restore of the epic, but we had compared that if you had done a full site restore, which you shouldn't have had to do. I acknowledge that. But if you had done a full site restore, it actually would have came back the way that the commenter had highlighted it. So for us, that's like okay, there's a problem here. We need to go back and actually take a look
like
at
I mean, I always see like a full site restore as like a very drastic thing, right? Because the one thing that I didn't test because I was too scared to test, which was what happens to the delta, right? Like what happens if I made a mistake 2 days ago? My team has obviously made a lot of new data over the next 2 days. If I do a full site restore, don't I like go back? Like what happened to that 2-day worth of information? So it's always a tricky. So I always like to cherry pick the parts that went wrong.
Yeah. And to us, we want to be able to provide that level of functionality because for that exact same reason, like we don't want people to be hesitant to use the product. The idea is that like we're providing peace of mind. We've got the data and we should be able to provide it back to you in the exact same way that you would expect it to be. So yeah, like if at any point you hesitate to hit that restore button, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah. Well, I'm not hesitant. I will tell you that now that I've used Rewind, right, that I've been using it more and more, anytime that, because I field so many requests from people all day long, right? And then like Bob and I and Rodney, we spend a lot of time like through the Atlassian community looking at what other people are having problems with Jira, and like the number of times that I'm like, should have had Rewind, or this wouldn't have happened if you had Rewind, or this be a 2-second thing if you had Rewind, like that is now something part of my lingo and in my mind that just didn't exist like 2 months ago.
I love that. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Let's see. Continuing. Go ahead, Bob. You can go.
I was actually kind of wondering. There's also one other particular use case for tools like Rewind, and that would be configuration management. In other words, if I have a sandbox instance of Jira, I have changes to it. I can take a snapshot of it. And is it possible to take said snapshot and just wholesale put it into production? You know, we've already done the testing in sandbox, and you know everything's good. I don't want to go into production and manually make those changes again and risk making errors.
Missing.
Yeah. Bob, it's like you read our product roadmap. It's a very common use case, and it's definitely something that we are looking at bringing into Rewind today. We have support for that kind of functionality in other integrations that we've built. We just haven't brought it yet to Jira. So we're very familiar with that use case. We hear it a lot. We hear it a lot from Jira customers, shockingly. So, or not shockingly. So, it's getting done. The team is looking at it actually
by, I don't know, 5 a.m. Monday morning. I blocked off 3 days on my calendar starting Monday to do the exact scenario that Bob just explained, because I spent the last 2 weeks building something in a sandbox with a lot of moving parts. and I'm just like, I am gonna miss one of these parts. And so I'm like, 3 days, closed off my calendar. Nobody talked to me because I got to be laser focused on restoring from sandbox to production.
So Alex, I can't promise it for 5 a.m. on Monday, but I can probably promise it sooner if you're willing to sit down with our team. Like
anytime, James, whenever you want me,
okay.
I am your person here.
I'm writing it down.
12 to 14 hours a day in this tool. I'm more than happy to share all my problems with this, not with Rewind, but with Jira.
Outstanding. Because as you know, right, like one of the biggest problems when you're trying to move data is like there's basic configuration that needs to exist. Because oftentimes, right, like users that own certain things over in the sandbox, if they don't exist in the production environment, like those are the types of problems that I know we've faced in other sandboxing tools that we've built or staging tools that we've built. And Jira, you know, its level of configuration is like 100x that of anything else that really we've ever had to deal with. And we really pride ourselves in the tools that we build on like the simplicity, ease of use. And we ideally don't want to have to like present people with this like pre-flight checklist of like, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Like we want to try and automate it as much as we can. So those are the types of hurdles that we want to try and clear when we bring that kind of functionality to the product. But it's in the works.
What else? Any other teasers that you can entice us
No.
with? No.
Bob saw the roadmap. Like if he mentions it, I'll bring it up. But
well, I don't know what else is on the roadmap, but I know of like other big concerns, especially with like backup and restore. Is as far as the backups go, where do you keep the data? Because I'm sure data residency is a big concern with with people. Is it something where you can set up and or a rewind customer can say it needs to be in the US, it cannot go outside of the US? Is that something that Rewind can do?
Yeah, and that touches on another reason why customers seek us out is like compliance is kind of a really big thing for a lot of customers. And part of compliance is like data privacy, data residency type things. So absolutely. And I mean, that's something that we've supported in like pre-Atlassian backup integrations. So like that was relatively easy for us because it was in our DNA. So yeah, if you've got compliance requirements around data residency, like you can decide data stays in Canada, it stays in the US, Europe. I think we brought Australia online very recently as well. So customers do have choices.
And I wanted to add on top of that, right? So FedRAMP right now, something that's top of my mind, specifically something that is really, really important for the cloud, right? But as you start evolving your way into a FedRAMP environment, and for everybody else who doesn't know what FedRAMP is so that you can have like DoD level type of information in the cloud, right? But usually like a government type of entity, at least here within the United States, that backup information is very, very critical, right? Or having a backup solution is very, very critical to even being in compliance with DoD requirements. So are you guys investigating or looking into FedRAMP in any way, shape, or form, or any of the CMMC compliances?
Not actively. So a lot of our decisions get driven by customer requests. So that probably gives you an indication. We don't
So
have
maybe once Atlassian actually enables the FedRAMP.
Could be, yeah. Or if some government agency comes to us and says like, hey, we're interested in the product, we would probably look at it. But we have invested in a lot of other compliance things. So
because I would think, right, like as companies do, as Atlassian enables FedRAMP, I am almost certain that a requirement of, because FedRAMP is going to be one checkbox, right? You're going to have a good backup strategy. It's going to be part of the requirement.
It's going to need to be part of it.
Jira is not supporting that out of the box in any way, shape, or form.
There we go. Okay.
So for everybody else, in case you all are kind of lost, right? Like backups in Jira suck, right? Which is why we're talking here with Rewind. Because if you've ever tried to back up Jira Cloud, it's a timestamp thing and it's a snapshot thing. And it's not really something that you are thinking about, right? And you can only keep your backups for like 14 days or something like that. You guys keep the backups for what, a year or so?
We've got, yeah.
And then there's no easy UI, right? If somebody takes a backup of Jira Cloud, they can take your data with you. With Rewind, it's all in a beautiful interface. It's all right there available. Super, super easy, as you were saying, James, right? Super easy to navigate. And you don't need like a for dummies Jira backup for dummies book to just figure out how to get your data back.
We kind of look at the platforms as when they provide their own backup solution, and Jira's got something like you were just describing. I don't want to use the words you did because I don't want to get in trouble with Atlassian, but listen, like they provide something. And we sort of look at that as the equivalent of like backing up your hard drive to your hard drive, right? Like if something were to happen with your account, let's say, or somebody has access maybe that they shouldn't have and does something to your backup, like it's just sort of a recipe for disaster. And it's not really following that true, 3-2-1 backup rule that you should be following. 3 copies of your data, 2 on different medias, 1 offsite, right? Like, so for us,
I've never heard of that. I've been in this environment my whole career, and I've never heard of the 3-2-1. I mean, I've heard of the concept, but never as eloquently put as 3-2-1.
Oh yeah, there you go. Today you learned something.
We got a question here about HIPAA. Any thoughts on HIPAA stuff?
Yes. Yeah. We have actually, and our security team just did a full gap analysis last quarter on what it would take. And the good news is the investment's pretty minimal for us. So we're not currently HIPAA compliant, but that's an example where some of our customers have come to us and said like, hey, do you have this checkbox ticked? So we put in the time to kind of understand, and now we're really in a position to make the decision, go, no go. I don't have a timeline for when that's going to happen, but it is on our radar.
Yeah, because from an Atlassian perspective, HIPAA compliance is a very rare thing, right? They bump you all the way to enterprise, so you're on the most expensive tier, and so there's just no way to even get the what is it? There's like a BI or some file,
it's
agreement that you got to sign, right?
The BIA, I forget what that stands for.
Yeah, so they won't even give that to you unless you're all the way up to enterprise, and sometimes teams only have like 20 people and they got to go pay for like 1,000 just because of the HIPAA compliance.
Don't you find it frustrating that some of these ecosystems, they kind of put security and compliance behind a paywall? Like SSO, for example, like you got to be on an enterprise plan in order to unlock SSO. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing, right? Like I kind of get it from like a business perspective, but from an end user perspective, yeah, it's one of those things where like security should be like almost like a given, right? Like you shouldn't have to worry about having to add on safety. Amen.
Yeah, I agree.
That's almost anti-Volvo, where in 1952 Volvo invented seatbelts, and they never patented it. They thought that it should be available for use for anybody, any automaker for free.
Great. Yeah. Bring that same energy.
Where's that these days?
Yep. Where is it? Indeed.
It's definitely, maybe, I don't know, like I think as more and more companies go into the cloud, right? Because I think still, even though we're in 2023, so many companies are in the cloud, there's still a lot before those FedRAMPs, those HIPAAs, right? They're still holding on to that last chance that they have to still keep on an on-premise environment, because the world's just not ready there, right? And so it'd be interesting to see the next generation of SaaS applications.
Totally.
So on the chat, James, I don't know. I know we only have a couple minutes here left. Any questions that you see that are interesting? I know that we had a couple, or anything that you'd like to comment on that you see here?
Reading my mind about data residency.
Yeah, Dave dream thing on his wish list. I'm not sure that'll be on the roadmap.
For everybody else, I don't know, James, if you wanted to do like a shout out here before you drop, right? But for everybody else, make sure we have links in the description down below. If you haven't used it, if you haven't used Rewind or backups, you got Confluence, Bitbucket, and Jira, and many other SaaS applications, right?
And Trello in the Atlassian ecosystem. Trello's there too.
Yes.
I'm sure Brittany will.
We got to mention that, or Brittany will be upset.
No, do not upset Brittany. Do not upset Brittany. No.
We're very afraid of Brittany. So Brittany, if you're watching the replay, we're scared of you apparently.
Anyway,
Not
yeah, like
scared. It's more respectful, and the more distance we have, the more respectful we are.
I
beautiful.
grew up in Louisiana. I actually do fear. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, well, I just want to reiterate, like, I appreciate the forum to chat with everybody. Super awesome to meet you again, Alex, Rodney, Bob. Thanks for stepping in and being the DR plan for this this podcast. Very
Of course.
useful.
We got to
And
eat our
then-
dog food every once in a while.
Yeah, right on. And am I allowed to like share a thing about
whatever.
a promo?
The
Yeah.
floor is
Okay.
yours, however you
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
Our people are your people.
Oh, outstanding. Well, so the good people here at Rewind have put together a promo code for your audience. If you're interested in giving Rewind a try, I invite you to do so. I'm not going to read the code because
It's all down there.
yeah, I think it's in the show notes, but it'll get you 2 months free of backups for Jira. And I think the timeline in that is somewhere it's valid from like today through to the beginning of November. So give it a try. Give us feedback. We definitely love talking to our customers, learning what's working, what's not working. Because at the end of the day, like it's really our mission to try and like give businesses peace of mind as they operate more and more in the cloud.
Thank you very much, James. And if in the future, if you ever want to come on, if you guys are ever like launching a new feature, new feature set, whatever you want to talk about, new roadmap, or if you want new roadmap ideas, you're always
Beautiful.
welcome to come chat with us, and we'd be more than happy to have you. And
I
the
appreciate
chat,
that.
last chance to get your questions in before James drops off. So make sure you get them in. Use the code down below there. Rodney put it in the chat as well. That is quite the text there. RB
Yeah.
for Jira Life 2 months.
Well, you know, the most secure thing is our passphrases, not necessarily.
There
And
was
he
this
said that-
story. Can I share one story? Like there was this
Absolutely.
show in Canada. I think it was just Canada called Bumper Stumpers. And it was 3 contestants that would get on stage and they would be presented with these license plates. And the license plates had these like terms kind of like this or modern SaaS company names where like the vowels have been removed. And the first person who could guess the word ultimately like got the points and would move on. Most points won. Anyway, that's the first thing that came to mind when I saw this code because it does say something. But you have to like really pay close attention to see what it says. Anyway.
RBF. If
Jira
anybody
Life
can figure
2
out-
months.
Yeah, I see. So,
Rod.
but I'm lost on what RBF is.
Yeah, that one I'm not sure. But Jira Life 2 months.
It's got to be like rewind best for something.
You could spend the next half hour trying to decode that.
We'll figure it out.
Rewind best friends.
There we go. Outstanding.
All right, James. I think all you got to do is just drop yourself if you're wanting to drop. And again, thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. And we look forward to, I'm going to continue to use Rewind here. And so I look forward to providing feedback for you. And Bob, Rodney, I don't know if you two have had a chance, but the first time I used it, I was like, where has this been?
I haven't used it. I've been kind of like, doing the dance because, the main job where I work for is a DevOps tool specialist where we handle not just the Atlassian tools, although job is to handle the Atlassian tool, but we also do the other ones like GitHub, Git, all the other and SaaS-based these days, trying to figure out a good back store solution that could cover an entire DevOps tool chain would be kind of... So
yeah, Bob, we want to talk to you too. Like if you've got tools that you're looking for backup solutions to, I've got people who want to listen.
Yeah, I think I'm going to try out the Bitbucket trial as well, because a common case that I get on Bitbucket is since they don't offer an enterprise solution, my teams have to just go get Bitbucket, stand up on their own. But the level of attrition that I get is really bad. So they take said Bitbucket with all that information with them. And I'm like, where'd all my intellectual property go? It's gone.
Bitbucket is literally my backup for GitLab on-prem. So yeah, a better solution would very much be appreciated there.
All right. Again, thank you very much, James. We don't want to keep you, but if you want to stay, you're more than welcome to kicking you out.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks again, folks. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, James.
For everybody else, we are still going, so don't feel like don't drop off yet.
Yeah, don't
We're
leave.
still going. Jira Amigos
Now the
continue.
inanity can begin.
So yeah, everybody, thank you very much. Hopefully you enjoy these type of guests. We're trying to get more guests here going forward. Last week we had Brittany. Today James was able to bless us with his presence here, and definitely hopefully let us know, right, if you enjoy these kind of things, different perspectives. Usually just Rodney and I telling you about life, but let us know let us know if you enjoy these kind of interactions, so that Rodney and I can go put our marketing hats on and go get some. Yeah, next week we got to get Mr. Ed Gale. Maybe he can he should just have like the smoker growing while he's in the pod. Andy says, you think you need acting lessons. I actually took acting as a 0 period in high school, but boy, did I flop out of that. I was not.
I
never
also
much of an actor.
So Bite with Lena said she votes for Ed. I only vote for Ed if we get barbecue. We all get barbecue. It's up to Ed to figure out logistics of that, but we all have to get barbecue.
He's got all 8 smokers. Ed, that should just be like your running background, just a bunch of smokers all day long. All right, so I pinged Funman Andy. Funman Andy, if you are listening, you have some 15 minutes.
Actually, we have an update on that. Unfortunately, he's not feeling entirely well. He decided to head to bed a little early, so he will not be joining us today. We'll have to go on to plan
Do we want to
D.
Do we want to then just promote it ourselves?
Sure. Go for it.
Let's pull it up. So while we look for that, Funman Andy. So in case you haven't figured it out by now, because we did mention it 2 episodes ago, Rodney, Jira Con is happening October 4th. There's a lot of things happening on October 4th. Here, if you live in LA, it's free Metro Ride Your Train Day. Microsoft's having an event. No, Google's having an event. It's also, if you go to Google's like social media page, because they're having their Pixel 8 event launch day, they have like a little fun thing about all the cool things that are happening on October 4th. They did not add that JiraCon is happening that day as well, but they should.
That's because Sajid hasn't gotten to right? I think that's going to be your new dare to 4th. You're going to have to get involved and do all of those things that you mentioned.
I don't think you're crazy. All right, Rodney, what do you got for us here? Enterprise Dam, the charity takeover. So October 5th, so not on that same day, but the day after. I knew it was close. It had something to do. I only read the subject lines, folks. If you ever send me any email, any communication, if it's not in the subject line, it's not getting read. It's got to be in the subject line. Don't be digging the important information into the body of a post here. All right. So anyways, Mr. Funman Andy is going to be presenting. So he wanted to come on here and talk to you about this charity that's going on. And so if you guys are interested, there's a charity takeover happening here on the 5th, and some information here. Would have been great to have Mr. Funman Andy present, but we'll try to catch him next week, because I think we still got one more on the 29th or 28th, September 28th here. So hopefully another opportunity for him to jump on here and talk about it. Moving on. Next topic. All right, folks. It's almost the end of September, and that means that a very historic thing happens in October. Can anybody guess what is going to be hurting you and your wallets in 3 short weeks? 3 or 4 short
pumpkin
weeks.
Spice latte season.
It is pumpkin spice latte season. If I like pumpkins, I'd also be happy, but I've never had pumpkins.
It's also Atlassian price update season.
That's what I'm fishing for here, folks. In case you missed it from Rodney here. October, mark your calendars, and if you can, lock in your pricing now, because Atlassian is raising their prices for their annual raise their prices day.
I've unfortunately already gotten the email, so
I got
my
the
price has
email.
already been bumped.
Expect anywhere between 5 to 20%, no, depending on the product.
Yeah, those are the numbers I've been hearing, anywhere between 5 and 20, depending on how large you are, who you are, what you're using, all that.
And so yeah, lock in your prices now for at least another year. What do you guys think about, like, how do you guys feel about this? Like, they say they're adding new functionality, which I appreciate, but man, these annual prices, man, the one thing you can count on is death taxes and SaaS price increases. What do you guys feel like? Not just even Atlassian, just in general, like the whole SaaS environment, right? Your Disney Plus, Netflix, everybody raises rates at least once a year. Like, you guys ever think we'll ever like shift back to on-premise because of this?
I think it eventually happen. We just got to have the right solution and people willing to back it. It's getting to the point where piracy is on the rise because subscription fatigue. Everything's a subscription, and you need 5,000 just to watch the shows you want to watch. People are starting to fight back, and that's one reason we're seeing piracy again on the rise after it had been on the decline for years. And I see the same thing eventually happen in enterprise tooling, where the CFOs and CTOs are going to be tired of approving these prices increases, and they're eventually going to get to the point where they say no more. We can't do this anymore. It's cheaper just to have it on prem and pay people to manage it.
Yeah, because I remember the whole, like, when I was the big defense company, right? The reason we went to the cloud was like, it costs how little? Because remember, like, computing resources were like 0.0001 cents per hour of computing.
There is still a break point, and last company I was with was well above it, where data center is by far cheaper than Atlassian Cloud.
Yeah, I was very surprised to hear that. Like, I always just assumed that it was way cheaper to go to the cloud. And after at Teams, right, talking to a bunch of people that are currently on premise, I was blown away by, they're like, it's almost double the price. And I'm like, that just doesn't, like, it doesn't register. Like, how can it be that much more expensive? Any thoughts, Bob? You're awfully quiet there. You look like you're full of thoughts.
I mean, but it's also not just it's not just the hardware. It's also people, right? I mean, for every for every server that you have on prem, you've got somebody or fractions of somebody that were maintaining that AWS environment, and it's not necessarily a Jira admin or a admin or a Jira system admin, right? So it's I'm still thinking there's an step.
But do you think it'll ever get so expensive that it will then on premise will make sense? Because if you're looking at this as an annual 5 to 10, 15% raise every year over year, at some point it's going to be a 300% increase from day one.
Right.
I mean, yeah, but data center price is going up faster than on-prem. And that's in spite of the fact that data center hasn't got a significant feature update in years. But yeah, Bob's right. There's a math there. There's a people cost that come into play that you have to consider. But my point is, at certain points, these tools are going to get more so expensive that people are going, okay, this new tool out here is cheap enough that even if we have to pay someone to run it, we're still coming out ahead of all these price increases.
Or you go the way of Robbie. I don't know if you guys saw what he's doing.
I have not.
So I think I haven't. I'm looking it back up. I'm trying to fact check myself, but I'm pretty sure I saw maybe 2-3 weeks ago that he's just gonna go make his own open source Jira.
Basically, it's all API driven. There's no real front end, at least not yet, and it's just API calls at this point. But yeah, he's trying to make his own project management tool because it's getting a little ridiculous.
And that seems to be kind of a circle, if you will, right? The early tools were kind of their own, And then we kind of moved from that to having vendor supply tools, like IBM Rational and ClearCase and ClearQuest and Team Concert, and then Team Foundation Server and Jira, at least for task management or project management. And now are we kind of at that tipping point where it's kind of back to, and I mean, there's Ravi out there also, Mattermost, which is open source. That's primarily a chat tool, but they're starting to add project to it.
Yeah, it would be an interesting thing, but like I said, I just think right now still we're getting close though, but 5-10 years from now, I'd be curious to see if the trends reverse, or maybe we figure something else out. Or maybe we have you guys ever watch Silicon Valley with like the new internet, with like a distributed internet? So maybe data centers become obsolete and everybody's phones becomes a data center, and like everything's just distributed.
Yeah, but
we'll find out.
I think in the recent past, or at least what Atlassian is trying to do is Atlassian is trying to reach for the big enterprises, and for that on cloud, you need scalability, and that's really a lot of on top of dark mode. There are other things that companies want, and one of those is scalability. How many people can we have on our Jira product? And fortunately,
50,000 now.
Huh?
50,000 now.
Yeah. So yeah, it's up to 50,000. I don't know how many enterprises there are with 50,000 employees.
That number just still blows my mind, right? Like when I worked at Boeing way back in 2010, it was 175,000 employees, but most of them being manufacturing. But now, like being able to find a defect in manufacturing, opening up a Jira ticket is like a thing. So you need a ton of customer roles for JSM. But I don't know. I like Jira. Ronnie, why don't you? I sent you a link here. I don't know if you got a chance to open it up. But another change that's coming, right? Again, they're just for your wallets here, folks. Is that we're expecting a change to the packaging of how you're going to be using or paying for Jira Cloud automation or your automation rules. So these are changing here very, very soon. And if you look at this picture here, you're basically going to get some new limits. So unless you're on enterprise, you ain't going to get a whole lot. Trust me when I tell you that these go quickly.
I mean, you're not going to get a whole lot, but you are getting more than you had been getting. So, I mean,
right.
It's a step in the right direction, but it's still not amazing.
It's a little. I'm as somebody who's been used to the premium life, where my clients are, I talk my clients most of the time successfly into going
to doubling their bill. For shame.
Well, there are some advantages. Better Atlassian support, unlimited storage, and until November, unlimited executions. But now that's oh, wait a minute. Well, not unlimited, but still very, 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 very large. That it actually stayed the same at the premium level.
No.
But it's free and standard that are kind of getting new limits. Now, the thing also in there is that limits for successful automation executions. If I read right.
So only now successful. But I think that is my opinion. If you scroll a little bit more down, right there, Ronnie. If you look at this number 3 here, second sentence, in this new model, all automation rules, including single project, are going to count towards the limit. I think that's a low blow, right? Because the best way around your limits today is don't make it a global rule, don't make it a multi-project rule, make it a single rule, and you're good to go. But making everything's going to count now, right? So I think long term, I think people are going to be paying. I don't think you're going to have enough. I think you will run out.
So we have a question in chat. Carlos here wants to know what the minimum tier for single sign-on is.
10?
I don't remember the minimum tier. Yeah, I think it's 10, but you just have to get Atlassian Access, which is the add-on.
Yeah, I think even just with one, right?
Yeah. There's no minimum tier. You could be on standard, you could be on premium, and it's bundled with enterprise.
The only sucky part is you got to pay an extra $3.
Free.
But Atlassian Access is going up too, right? The price for Atlassian Access is going up. So right now it's like $3 something a user, so it's probably going to go up to like $4. When is the price for in the Jira Life scheduled for, or is it just more expensive merchant swag? We just have sponsors. We're trying to monetize.
Swag.
We're trying to monetize.
We do need some swag though.
We do.
I want to see people decked out in Jira Life swag at Team 24.
Yeah. So does this mean I don't have to buy my own sombrero for Team 2024?
No, you have to buy a bigger sombrero.
I will if I have to buy my own bigger sombrero. It's going to be decked out in TJL logos and peanuts, because we've got to mention the peanut gallery, of course.
Well, what we got to do
and
is
the crown.
We got to get jerseys like what Sean's saying here, right? We just got to get jerseys from with the Jira Life in the front, and then kind of go like the whole MLS, right? Where you just like splatter with Old Street Solutions and Release Team, everybody else just
and
like,
rewind.
Yeah, rewind in the back. We're just gonna put all the different sponsors on these shirts. I mean, Messi looks good with like 15 different sponsors on his jersey. I'm sure we'll look good, right? We're like the Messis of Jira. I think that was I was in a meeting today and somebody called me the GOAT of Jira. And I'm like, dang. And I'm like the novice with the group here.
You never get over that feeling. I'm sorry, Alex.
But I'm
you
the
don't
novice?
get over that feeling. I still feel like that sometimes.
You guys are infinitely smarter than me, man.
Imposter syndrome is weighs very, very.
You know what? I have zero imposter syndrome until I'm in the same room with you two.
Oh, this ought to make Saturdays live. We should.
Oh yeah! Before we end here, folks, this Saturday, starting at 7 a.m., I am hosting a live stream over on Pacific time. Yeah, 7 a.m. Pacific time over on my main channel. I am going to be answering community questions because it's time. It's time that I make some time to do this. It's not the best timing, but I got peer pressured into it by thing 1 and thing 2 here. And so join us.
Do I need to mention in front of Andy all of the benefits? The rivers flow with milk and honey.
No, because Andy's mad. Andy doesn't want me to like go on a rampage. You know what was really interesting? I put out a LinkedIn post about like, hey, would anybody be interested in watching this? And I got a good reception to it. Let me see if I can pull up the numbers here.
I think I was one of the yes votes.
Yeah, so let me just give you some numbers, folks. I got 990 impressions, 26 votes, but 4 people said no. Like, that's mean.
Haters. They just haters.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, though, by the way, in case in case you guys ever do fill out these LinkedIn polls, the originator, in case you've never done a LinkedIn post yourself, the originator does see the results and the who voted out. So as a social experiment, I'm just gonna like make like these totally like are like random, just very biased or very polarizing posts and see how people respond.
peanut butter versus jelly.
Was it tabs versus spaces? It's always the one that gets everybody.
Oh,
Oh, I will fight over that.
Yeah. See, I'm hitting a sense nerve already. But yeah, no. In all seriousness, this Saturday, Ronnie, I don't know if you want to pull it up here. I don't have a schedule, but we'll get a schedule today, and I'll send out a link. This Saturday, starting 7 a.m. Pacific time, we are going to be live streaming. I don't know how long. I'm going to go as long as I possibly can. The kids wake up 2 hours later, but I'm hoping that maybe, what do you think, Bob? 25, 50, 100 questions? Andy, how many do I need?
handle.
I don't have an answer. I don't even know how I got to be a community leader.
2,
but
3, 4, 500. We'll hit the. Is there a record? Who's got the record, Andy? Let's go beat that.
Oh, you're not doing that.
No.
Nope.
You
Oh,
don't
no.
want. You really don't want.
You don't want to
see who's
face
got
a
the
golf.
How many? Andy, who's got? I know Andy. Andy has like a little
Is
notepad.
it
He's got
Nick
these written
who
down.
has the record right now?
Is it like for all time? It's probably Nick. I'm looking at so there's all time, and then there's like quarterly.
Current time?
They do it every quarter. Usually I see at the quarter, and for the quarterly results, I'm like near the bottom. I'm like, just get enough to maintain my community leadership, and then I see way up on top, people like Trudy Classbill. So
Yeah, I seen Trudy. How long has she been around for? I just started seeing her name.
not that long.
We should reach out to these folks, Ronnie, and get them to join us on the Jira Life.
And Rodney's on mute.
Full soliloquy and on mute. And he goes back on. More pool than I do. I don't know these people, but you guys are friends with everybody. Sorry, it's loud, he says. I'm just waving to the guy in the back over there behind your right shoulder. All right. Well, anyways, if you guys are interested, this is happening this Saturday. We're just going to go for a few hours. We'll see who joins us and see who wants to come in and have some of the fun. We are going to be answering also questions in the chat too, right? So it'll be a live stream like this, and you'll be able to pop in your questions, but obviously the focus is to try to get those community.atlasian.com questions answered, because I apparently have like only a dozen or so questions answered. And so, yeah, so we're going to do that. And then after that, I'm going to see if I start my own study group, because I got booted out of the last group that I was in.
Oh, for the 520 exam?
Yeah, for the 520.
Which group did you get booted out of? Not ours.
Clearly not yours.
Okay.
No, of course yours.
Oh. We were just talking logistics. I had to set up a schedule meeting times. So I'm at a point where I can send you the meeting invites. I don't know if you can handle Thursday before noon, or like around 9:30 or so.
Pacific?
Which time zone?
Yeah,
Pacific.
No, I think Pacific. Yeah. We'll see. If anything, I am well on the road though to try to get certified here, so we'll have to get that done. All right, folks, we are down to the last couple minutes. So everybody, thank you very much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed our special guest. You saw live stream this Saturday. Don't miss out on that. Andy's going to send us a presentation from Team 23 about the benefits of memberships. Andy, I just want to be on the other side of the rope. That's all I want.
He's a member. He just wants to be the leader.
I was tempted to just go under the rope. Because
I wouldn't have said anything.
They had a bouncer at the front, like not letting anybody through. But I'm like, but the rest of it was pretty wide open. I just want to get on the other side of the rope. Feel like I'm part of the cool kids.
You are part of the cool kids. We just need to get you there.
We'll see. Anything on the... I was maybe due to Shabbos. Nothing personal.
Sabbath.
I can only jump on.
He's observing the Sabbath.
Oh, okay. But, I see. So
Sundown to sundown. So sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. He's
Shoot,
observing,
man.
so.
Then I gotta go real long.
When are you hitting 10K again?
Wait, and also just I don't know. It's quite. Andy, would you expect anything less from this group of fine people here?
To tell you the truth, I did not have to answer 500 to make it into community leader. I think it was probably less than 50, but those 50 had screenshots. Those 50 had book type descriptions.
That's the key. Screen. You've got to.
Guys, but I gotta tell you a funny story. So Andy was my moderator. My what do they call it? The quiz master. He was my quiz master for my when I did
for QuizWiz.
Yeah, he was my quiz master, right?
Dite.
Sorry,
you and Dite.
Dita.
Dita.
Yeah, but I jumped on a little early because I got so there's 12 and a half hours between IST and PST, but there's only 12 hours between Pakistan and PST. And so that 30-minute window like screwed me up because I'm like, is it 12 and a half or is it 12? I don't know which one's which. So I just jumped with 30 minutes extra. And so Andy was on there talking with Sajid. And so Andy was like, oh, by the way, I couldn't find your account on community.atlassian.com. Like, I was wondering, what's your name? So I gave him my name. And the biggest like disappointment of Andy, he's like, oh, you only have 8.
You need more than 8. You really do. Let's get you into good double digit territory there with some quality answers there. We can do it this Saturday.
Oh man. Trudy was the Awesome Answer Award winner this year. Yeah.
Yes, she was.
Well, we'll try. I literally have 8 right now, so we'll see if we can get to at least 25 or something. Get me into something. All right, folks. Thank you very much. We are well over time here, so I got to run. I got so many more things to take care of today. So many more fires. So for everybody else, thank you very much, Andy. Or sorry, Rodney. I keep just thinking you're Andy today. Are you available, or should we try to fake our way out of this?
All right. If you guys don't mind a little background. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to the Jira Life. My friend here is Alex, Dr. Jira Ortiz. You can find him at youtube.com/@ATechTechTutorials. Again, he just mentioned it this Saturday, 7 a.m. Pacific time. Join us. It's going to be an answer-a-thon. We are not going to let him stop until he gets enough quality answers to be a community leader. My name is Rodney. You can find my blog at thejiraguy.com. You can catch me at so many conferences October. There's JiraCon on October 4th. There's Jira Day, October 17th and 18th. Please come out, see me, say hi. Absolutely will make my day. Thank you, Bob, for jumping in when I was having some issues. Always a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Need to get you on here more.
Next time it's Ed's turn.
It is Ed's turn next time. Also, again, thanks to James from Rewind for coming on and speaking us first at the podcast. It's amazing hearing his story and what they're doing over there. You can catch us as we record this podcast every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. It's youtube.com/@thejiralife. Be sure to subscribe, like, do all the things. But join us each week as we and the other people in the Peanut Gallery talk about what's new, answer questions, and have fun. If you can't catch us live, you can catch the podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast from. If you think the podcast deserves rating, please do. It helps us out so much. And remember, we didn't choose the Jira Life. The Jira Life chose us. Thank you.